textbook. Alright, with the digestive system, first of all, we should know this. Herbivores, what kind of diet are herbivores? They eat vegetables like plants. What are the bigger categories if we're talking about plants and stuff? Producers, very good. Producers. Okay, carnivores, on the other hand, they eat meat, very good. So they eat other consumers, so mainly animals. Except for Bruce, right? Bruce, he's kind of converted. Yeah, he's a... Omnivores, on the other hand, these are organisms that eat a little bit of both, right? So they mainly eat both consumers and producers as well. So, like Naruto here, eating his ramen. Okay, so there's different process of digestion, right? First of all, we talk about what's the first thing you do? You ingest something. How do you ingest? You're just putting food particles into your mouth, like Doug here is doing. And after you put things into your mouth, you're going to end up digesting it. And digestion is just the breakdown of food. And the breakdown of food, there's two different types of breakdown. One is the mechanical breakdown. And when we're talking about mechanical breakdown, we're physically breaking it down, such as when we're biting something or chewing on something. The purpose of this is that we increase the amount of surface area of that food particle so it can interact with enzymes so that we can do chemical digestion. So let me try to draw that out. What I mean by that increased surface area. So if we eat a particle that's this big, right? Let's just say it's an apple then. Okay. Okay, if it's an apple that big and we eat the entire apple in our mouth, okay, then the enzymes can only attack that apple if we were to swallow it whole. Not like that will ever happen. Let's say it's a small tomato then, okay? Cherry tomato, there you go. So enzymes will only be able to access only this outer surface of the cherry tomato that we're eating if we swallow it whole, right? If instead we actually chew on it, breaking it down into smaller pieces now the enzymes will be able to go all around and see how the amount of surface area increases after we end up chewing on something, so on and so forth, yeah? And so that more enzymes could now access that food particle to help chemically digest that food particle. So that's the purpose of mechanical, is just to increase the amount of surface area. So that we have chemical digestion. So chemical digestion, we're actually breaking it down, breaking bonds, chemical bonds, so that we could break it into smaller and smaller biomolecules so that we can finally absorb what we eat. So it's chemical breakdowns usually by these enzymes that will break down large biomolecules to smaller biomolecules. So over here, what kind of biomolecule is that? Peptide. Okay, so what part is the peptide in? What biomolecule is the peptide part of? Protein. Very good. And remember, it had that amino group right here, the N with two H's. Amino group. Carboxyl group over here. COOH. We have a hydrogen over here, and then a functional group that form the peptide bond on this particular amino group over here. And so when this peptide bond breaks, it undergoes what kind of reaction? What is that chemical reaction called? Uses up water to cause this to break apart. That's putting things together. So we're breaking it apart. You're using water to cause it to break apart. Hydro, what's breaking apart? Starts with an L. Hydrolysis, very good. Okay, so hydrolysis, water will break up the peptide bond into, now we have 2 amino acids over here. Okay, hydrolysis, very good. So now that we broke these biomolecules down into smaller biomolecules, finally we can absorb what we eat. And so this absorption is transferred from our gut, from our alimentary canal, through our cells into our bloodstream or our lymph vessels. So then it could circulate in our blood, go to the correct locations to provide us energy. Finally, we have defecation. Finally, we have defecation. And defecation or elimination is we're eliminating whatever's not absorbed undigested material that will end up coming out the other end. So I had, the little poopy. Yeah. The cinnamon roll. Yeah. Okay, so the anatomy of the digestive system, we have our digestive tract, okay? The digestive tract is also called the alimentary canal. And this is a continuous tube. Continues from our mouth all the way down to our anus, basically. So it's one entire tube that's continuous. And so food travels through this, and then finally, when at the very end, whatever is not absorbed is eliminated as feces. So it starts off at the oral cavity, travels down to the pharynx, goes down our esophagus, and then finally goes into our GI tract or gastrointestinal tract. Gastro means stomach, so it starts off with our stomach, goes down into our intestines, small first, and then large later. And then from the large, it exits through our anus. There are some accessory organs as well. And these organs will, like the name implies, help the process of digestion of food within our digestive tract. So our teeth is an accessory organ for our digestive system. Our tongue as well. Salivary glands, the liver, and pancreas, and also the gallbladder here. So all of these are accessory organs that help the process of digestion. Okay, let's begin with the oral cavity, since that's where we're going to cause ingestion, right? The bringing in of food. So the mechanical digestions, you guys could probably tell me what kind of mechanical digestions occur inside the oral cavity. Yeah, we're chewing, right? Very good. So the teeth will cause us to help chew and bite off food. There are different types of teeth. We have 32 as an adult. We have the incisors, and their main purpose is to bite food, right? This is the first eight teeth that you have here. These are all incisors. The middle are the central incisor, and then the ones on the side are the lateral incisors. This is to help us bite food. We have our canines next to it. And these canines help us shear our food. Okay, so it helps tear our food while it's in our mouth. Huh? The next ones are premolars. The premolars are right next to the canine, and then behind those two premolars are the three molars behind that. Okay, and both the premolars and the molars help grind food as we're chewing. Grind it down. Our tongue helps manipulate the food. So we're manipulating it to make it into like a small round piece so we could be able to swallow it. It's also for taste and for touch as well. Chemical digestion. So that was all mechanical that we just talked about in the oral cavity. When we're talking about chemical digestion, what are we doing? Okay, so we're breaking what down? The food down. Okay, we're breaking chemical bonds, right? down. Yeah, we're actually breaking the chemical bonds. Yeah. Our salivary glands are located over here. The things that are in purple here are all our salivary glands. They all have different names that you don't need to know of. That's okay. But the salivary glands, they produce saliva, as Guybrush here is doing. Saliva has a pH of around 7. It's pretty neutral. Okay, so, and it also contains certain enzymes, and also helps with lubricating the food. It lubricates it so that it doesn't scratch our throat as it's going down our esophagus. The types of enzymes that are involved, first of all, salivary amylase. And amylase, as we know, helps break down the starch. Well, now you know. But salivary amylase, salivary from the saliva, helps break down starch. So when we're breaking down starch, starch is what kind of biomolecule? Carbohydrates. It's how plants store their energy. And so as you can see, it's a chain of these glucose molecules. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Oops, what's going on here? There's a chain of these glucose molecules here, and amylase breaks up this chain into smaller carbohydrates or smaller chains of these starch molecule.
Last week, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You said anything with an ASE suffix is some type of biomolecule?
It's some type of enzyme. Yeah, So as you can see, all these end with aces, right? So these are all enzymes. Lingual lipase. Okay, just by the name itself, lipase. What does it break down? Lipids. Okay, specifically, what kind of lipids are we talking about? Triglycerides, fats, right, that we eat. Very good. So, the thing about lingual lipase, it actually doesn't break down in our mouth, okay, because it actually needs a low pH to be activated to digest lipids. And in our mouth, what is our pH? 7, right? It's around neutral, so it can't work at that pH. So as we're going from the oral cavity, the next location is the pharynx. The pharynx is shown over here. That's the lower portion of the pharynx. There's also this portion, the nasal pharynx as well. But since we're talking more about the digestion portion of it, we're going to be focusing more on the oral and laryngeal pharynx here. Okay, so it's a passageway for both air to pass through when we're breathing and for food to pass through if we're eating or drinking. The larynx itself is this voice box here. Here's the larynx. This is where we have our vocal cords located at. So we usually have this opened for air to pass through, unless we're swallowing. When we're swallowing, this is going to cause this epiglottis to bend downwards. So the epiglottis is over here, and it's in an upright position, but when we're swallowing, it closes down. It closes down to prevent any food particles from going into our trachea, which is our windpipe. And we don't want food particles to go into our lungs. If food does go in that direction, we're going to cough to try to get that food particle out of our trachea, back into our mouth, and go into the proper tube, hopefully. So as you can see, the esophagus is where compared to the trachea? It's behind it. It's more posterior to the trachea. So here's the esophagus over here, trachea is over here. Okay? So food passes through our pharynx into our esophagus. Esophagus, once again, is behind the trachea or posterior to the trachea. And this is where peristalsis occurs. Peristalsis is this wave-like contraction, meaning that there's a contraction behind the food particle and relaxation in front of the food particle so that food can travel in one direction. And it will go down to our stomach next. Okay, it's not mechanical digestion. So cross that out. It's not part of the mechanical digestion. It's just the process of food going into our digestive tract.
When you say mechanical digestion, is that like a voluntary response of the body?
Not necessarily. We'll later go into the stomach and we'll talk about mechanical digestion there. It's not voluntary, it's just a physical breakdown of food.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's not breaking down, it's just moving.
It is breaking down the food. Oh, you're saying peristalsis. Yes,
We're not
yes.
considering it as mechanical digestion is because it's not being broken down.
Yes. It's just moving. Yes, peristalsis is just moving from one place to another using this contraction and relaxation. So when we're talking about peristalsis, it's something similar when we're squeezing out toothpaste. So we contract on one end, and then we're going to relax on this. Well, this doesn't relax; it's just open. But in our digestive tract, there is muscles that help contract and relax. And you'll relax on one end, causing whatever to pass through, right? Like a toothpaste. If you're going to have contraction on this side and then you continue to contract it, it's going to move the toothpaste in one direction. So same thing over here. You have contraction and then relaxation over here so that the food can go down. And you have more contraction over here, more relaxation down here so that food will continuously go down in one direction. Get that? That's peristalsis. Yeah? Stomach. Now that we're in the stomach, its main purpose is to store, and it also does some digestion of the food as well. Okay, and there is a lining around the stomach that helps these cells secrete this gastric juice. Within the gastric juice, there's hydrochloric acid. Okay, so the hydrochloric acid has multiple purposes. One is to kill bacteria, because the food that we eat, there's going to be some bacteria inside of it. So we want to make sure that this bacteria is killed off so it doesn't cause infections within our digestive tract. It will also cause denature of proteins. Remember how we were talking about proteins? It has to be at a certain pH, some certain temperature, or else it won't function. So if it's not a particular protein that usually functions over here at this pH, then it's going to cause it to denature. It also helps activate certain enzymes. Remember how we were talking about the lingual lipase, right, from our saliva? It wasn't active in our mouth because the pH was what? 7. What is the pH in our stomach? Is it going to be higher than 7 or lower than 7?
Lower? Because it's acidic as it gets lower?
Yes, it's lower. Remember, the low pH is acidic, while high pH is more basic. Okay. Pepsin. Pepsin is a protease. What is a protease?
Enzyme that breaks down protein.
Enzyme that breaks down protein. Very good. So pepsin is an enzyme that will break down protein into smaller peptide chains. Okay, and that and lingual lipase are activated at low pHs. So this needs low pH. So low pH to be active. Gastric lipase. What does it break down? Lipids, more specifically triglycerides. Very good. Okay. So we're talking about hydrochloric acid and pepsin, right? One is very, it will cause denaturing of proteins. It will cause some cells to die off if it was to contact it. And pepsin, we talked about how it's a protease, so it's going to digest proteins. Our stomach is made out of some proteins and cells and everything. What doesn't it cause it to digest itself, though? It's because of the mucus that surrounds it. The mucus helps protect the lining of the stomach. However, the lining of the stomach will at some point be eroded away because of the hydrochloric acid and the pepsin. However, we're constantly renewing cells inside our stomach so that we're having a new layer. I don't remember how frequent, but it's pretty frequently. I think it might be on a daily basis or a couple days kind of thing that we renew the lining of our stomachs. So this mucus helps prevent it from occurring. So there's mucus cells that make mucus around the stomach to prevent the self-digestion of the stomach. So there is mechanical digestion occurring in the stomach. And this is when our stomach is churning. We usually have this churning when we're hungry and there's nothing in there. That churning, and we actually physically or audibly hear that sound, right, when someone's stomach is growling. And that's the mechanical digestion occurring, although there's no food in that point. If there is food, then you don't hear it occurring. The chemical digestion, we already talked about how lingual lipase from our salivary glands will go into our stomach, get activated by the low pH, so it could digest lipids or triglycerides. Gastric lipase, same thing. It's activated by the low pH and breaks down to triglyceride. And what other enzyme is involved? We talked about it. It's a protease. Starts with a P. Pepsin, yes. Pepsin also is involved in breaking down proteins at this point in time. It's also, once again, activated at this low pH. Before we go into the small intestines, which is our next location, I want to talk more about the accessory organs that will help the digestion occurring within the small intestine. So first of all, the liver. The liver's main function for digestion, it has many functions, but for digestion, it produces bile. Okay? And the gallbladder, which is right next to it, so here's the liver, the gallbladder is over here, it stores and helps concentrate the bile that the liver produces. Okay? And when we're eating something fatty, that's when the gallbladder ejects the bile into our small intestine. And when it ejects, it goes into our duodenum here. Okay. Oh, talking about emulsification. So bile, what it does, it emulsifies fats. Emulsified is just this fancy word of mechanically breaking down the fat. And if it's mechanically breaking it down, we're breaking down something that's larger into smaller and smaller pieces, right? So it's going to end up increasing that surface area of fats so that the enzymes like lipases will be able to digest it. The pancreas is also an accessory organ. Here's the pancreas. It produces pancreatic juice. And within the pancreatic juice, it has pancreatin, which has multiple types of enzymes. So we're going to go through it all. So there's pancreatic amylase, just by its name. Amylase, what does it digest? Amylase. We had salivary amylase. Carbohydrates, starch. Amylase, like the salivary amylase in our mouth, digests starch. Pancreatic lipase digests, fats again, triglycerides. Very good. Nuclease. RNA. Remember how ribonucleic acids, right? So it helps chemically digest RNA. And over here, if you look at it, it's how many strands is this? It's a single strand, but twisted on itself, right? Very good. And what are the monomers of a nucleic acid? This thing? What do you call that thing? It's nucleotides? No? Don't remember. It's a nucleotide. Okay, within the nucleotide we have, what is the sugar card? No, not glucose. It looks sort of like a glucose, but it's a 5-ring sugar. Starts with the R, like in RNA. Ribose, very good. There's a nitrogenous base and a phosphate. Deoxyribonuclease, like the name implies, it digests DNA instead. So instead of having ribose, it has deoxyribose. Yeah, all this is in the pancreas. They have created all these enzymes to help digest all these things. So trypsin, chymotrypsin, and carboxypeptidase are all proteases. These help chemically digest proteins. These are activated, actually all these are activated at high pHs. Okay, so all of these needs high pH to be activated. But once it's coming out of the stomach, what pH is it again? It's pretty low pH. So what's going to cause it to be raised so that these enzymes can function? Well, pancreas not only has pancreatin with it, it also has sodium bicarbonate. Sodium bicarbonate is just like baking soda. It's very alkaline, so it helps to neutralize the acidic gastric juices, and it helps also activate these pancreatic enzymes. Yeah, if you have gastric reflux or something, if you eat Tums, or if you just take baking soda, it helps neutralize the acid. Okay, now that we talked about the accessory organs, we could talk now about the small intestine, since all these all the juices, pancreatic juices and bile, are going to be entering here. So the small intestine, it has the most amount of absorption occurring, and it does further digest the food that we eat. There are different regions. The first region is called the duodenum. The duodenum is where all the secretions that we talked about, the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas, all comes into this location here. And here, as you can see, this is the duodenum here, and this is where all the bile from the gallbladder and liver exits from, and the pancreatic juice all exits here. So over here, if you see it, it's just this beginning portion of it. It's the duodenum. Next is the jejunum, and at the jejunum, most of the absorptions will occur at this location here. So this is all the jejunum here. And then ileum is the final portions of it. So as it travels away all the way down to the large intestine, it contains a lot of these lymphatic nodules. And these lymphatic nodules helps combat bacteria. So it prevents infections from occurring. The reason why we have a lot of these nodules here is because it's very close to the large intestine, which actually houses a lot of E. coli, natural occurring E. coli. However, it will cause problems if that E. coli were to go into our small intestine. So that's why we have these lymphatic nodules to help prevent that from occurring. And if a good way to kind of remember this, well, probably not that great of a way. So duodenum comes first, jejunum, and then ileum next. Some people think of the Dow Jones Index if you're into business type of stuff. If not, which I didn't know what that was, to be honest, when I first heard. Yeah, you could call up a DJ so that I could party. So whatever works for you. Yeah. Whatever works. Yeah, it doesn't show up in that particular picture, unfortunately. Okay, so small intestine digestion. So mechanical digestion, there's segmentation. I don't know, I think I put peristalsis or something, but segmentation, peristalsis occurs throughout the entire digestive tract, right? So it could continue from the esophagus all the way down to our anus to expel it. But segmentation is this process where we have contractions at different locations, and then contractions still at other locations. So basically it's this mixing. So you see this food particle here. Once there's another contraction at this location, it's going to spread. You know, it's going to spread over here, and there's further contractions, it's going to spread over here. So it just does this mixing, right? If you're thinking about a toothpaste again, if you have it closed on one end and you just going back and forth, you're mixing the toothpaste back and forth. No one does that, but I'm just saying, like, as an analogy of what's happening in your gut, that's what's happening. So that's what segmentation is all about. There's also the pancreatic enzymes that was from the pancreas that's emptied into our duodenum. There's pancreatic amylase. So this is all repeat. Pancreatic lipase. And we talked about how there's ribonucleases. And what's the next one? Deoxyribonucleases, all involved in this process. And we also have this proteases, right? The trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidases, all part of this that's within the duodenum to help break down starch, breaks down triglycerides, breaks down proteins, and also nucleic acids as well. So all the biomolecules through the pancreatic enzymes. There's also brush border enzymes, and these are actually on the small intestine itself, so it's not from an accessory organ. So we have maltase on the actual small intestine, and maltase breaks down what kind of sugar? Maltose. Remember? Maltose, yes, from malts and stuff like that. So over here, it's just two glucose molecules linked together. So break this down, and once you break it down, what process is that? If you utilizes water to break it down? Hydrolysis, really good. Sucrase breaks down what?
Sugar.
Which sugar?
Sucrose?
Sucrose, yeah, the table sugar. So it will cut the sucrose into a glucose and fructose. Lactase breaks down lactose, very good. It breaks down lactose into which two monosaccharides? Do you guys remember? Well, what is this? This is lactose here. But what is this particular monomer here? Oops, I'm like covering it now. So maltose was glucose and glucose. Sucrose is glucose and fructose. Lactose is glucose and galactose is the other one. Okay, so another brush border enzyme. There are other proteases. I don't want to get into them. Just know that there are other proteases. And there's also nucleosidases. Remember how we were talking about how there's, what is this again? You guys could tell? No, what is this? Not amino acid. It was from this molecule here.
Are we going to have to do this on the exam, like identify these sorts of things?
Yeah, I would like
We
you.
should make like a paper where we can actually like look at it. I can memorize which one looks like what. Because these are not on my paper, so I have to like
Draw it out and stuff.
Hey, there's paper. Thank you.
Is it in the book?
Now we'll have it like away.
It is in the book. Well, actually,
Not all of them.
not all of them are in the book.
Not
There's some of
they
them.
show up here. They're not the same. So that would be helpful.
You know, I'll make a video of it or something, and so that you guys can access it.
I would have a piece
Like,
of paper. So you make a video, then I'm gonna have to like copy it and try to like make it perfect.
you just need to know the general. You don't have to know exact.
Give us a list and we'll Google them.
Okay, why don't I do that?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, just give us a list and then we'll Google and then we'll just copy it.
Okay, sounds good. So here, the nucleosidases. So this is a nucleotide, remember? Nucleotides make up the DNA. So here we have the nucleosidases where they break up the bond between a nucleotide's nitrogenous base here from the ribose. So it breaks this bond here. While the phosphatases, like the name implies, will break down what and what? The phosphate group from the sugar, yes. So it'll break that bond. So notice how we're breaking it down to smaller and smaller pieces. The whole purpose is so that we can absorb that small pieces. So the small intestine, for absorption, we have circular folds. And as you can see, these are the circular folds, these things that kind of cause these circle folds inside our small intestine there. And their whole purpose is to increase the amount of surface area. So if we have more surface area, then we can absorb more and more molecules into our cells, into our blood. On this circular folds, notice how there's this little itty bitty folds on top of the circular folds. These are the villi. Okay? That will also increase the surface area as well. And the villi itself have individual cells on them over here. And these individual cells, as you can see, have these little protrusion of their cell membrane. So even more folds now. Okay, so it just shows you how much surface area we're increasing so that we have the maximum amount of absorption occurring. So to kind of put this in perspective, so here is a circular fold, more or less, okay? On the circular folds, they have villi, okay? And on the villi itself, they're made up of all these little absorptive cells here. And the absorptive cells have the little microvilli on them. Kind of get it now? So it just shows you how much surface area we're talking about. It's like one surface area compounded with another one, compounded with another one, so that we increase the amount of surface area for absorption. Okay, so once we have absorption, what occurs is that the nutrients go through the absorptive cells and into our blood. If we're talking about proteins, nucleotides, nucleic acids, or carbohydrates. If we're talking about lipids, on the other hand, it doesn't go through into our blood. It actually goes through into our lymphatic vessel, this yellow thing here. It's called lacteal. Don't have to worry about that. But just know that triglycerides go into our lymphatic vessels. Okay? While everything else, the proteins, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, they go through our blood. Okay, the small intestine is actually very long. The reason why it's called small is because of how wide it is. It's a very small diameter. Our large intestine is actually not as long as our small intestine. However, the diameter of it is a lot larger, hence the name large intestine. So don't think of it long intestine. It's not long at all, but it's actually large in diameter, okay? It absorbs whatever water that's left over. The small intestine absorbs most of the water, but the large intestine absorbs whatever leftover water from the small intestine that didn't absorb it. And it helps eliminate waste and contains the naturally occurring bacteria within our gut. And that bacteria actually helps provide us with some vitamins for us to absorb. The appendix, by the way, here's the large intestine. It's just this outer rim over here. The appendix is this little thing that sticks off on the beginning portion of our large intestine. That's this little thing. The appendix contains a lot of white blood cells. It's actually a part that has kind of decreased in humans compared to animals. They have a larger appendix than us because we don't utilize it as much. The appendix actually contains a lot of this white blood cells to help fight off infections. It's part of our immune system. And like I said earlier on, like how it's the bacteria inside the large intestine is very abundant, so it tries to keep it in check. And notice its location, right? It's very near the small intestine, right? To help prevent infections of the small intestine, because small intestine shouldn't have any bacteria in it. We killed it all from the stomach, the hydrochloric acid, and we're not supposed to get any from the large intestine.
So when you get it, like if you get it removed, are you more prone to get bacteria?
That's a good question. Our natural immune system will try to fight it off, whatever infections that is within our gut and stuff. Of course, this helps it, kind of thing. it won't hinder you too much unless maybe you have specifically a gut infection or something like that, in the large intestine. Yeah, it is considered useless. You can live without it, okay? But it does have some usefulness by having these white blood cells. Over here, the rectum is the last portion of it before we get to the anus. It's basically to store our feces. We store it up so that we can voluntarily go if we need to go number 2. So if we don't have it to store, we'll be constantly pooping in our pants kind of thing. So it's to help store the feces. That's, I guess, not technically correct. I mean, we'll be constantly going number 2, but we will still be able to control it because our anus itself has muscles to help us voluntarily control. Hopefully, most of us have that. Alright, nutrition. So we've gone through the entire digestive system. Now we talk about some of the nutrition. Calorie, with a big C, once again, is the amount of energy that calorie in general is the amount of energy it takes to raise 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. The big C calorie is 1 kilocalorie. Okay, so it means 1,000 of those smaller case C's calories. In carbohydrates, there's 4 kilocalories per gram. Proteins, same amount. Lipids, there's 9 kilocalories per gram. And remember the reason why we were talking about lipids has more calories per gram? Yeah, they're fats, right? Remember how many bonds there were on that fatty acid that we saw earlier? Yes? No? It just had so many of those bonds. Those are all potential energy. Once you break that bond, it releases energy. So lipids tend to be a lot more energy-based per gram. Alcohol, more than carbohydrates and proteins, for those of you interested. So that's why people have beer bellies and whatnot, too. It's because it has a lot more calories in it. Yeah. Nutritional facts, when we're talking about nutritional facts on this backside of something, we're talking about some 2,000 calories per day is the average amount a person, normal, quote-unquote normal person, should have. Depends on your basal metabolic rate, as we would talk about. But if you look at this, the calories that we're talking about here, we're talking about the big case C calories. So in this particular case, how many lowercase c calories are we talking about then? This is 271 that's shown over here.
That's one big calorie.
Yeah. 271,000 smaller case calories. No, it's just that no one cares too much of the lowercase calories because it's more of, I guess, on a smaller scale. But on a larger scale, it makes more sense to talk about calories in that sense. So the metabolism is all the reactions that occurs within our body. Anabolism is forming larger and larger molecules. If we're forming a larger molecule, what kind of reactions are we doing? So water is actually released through this process. No. Yeah. It's almost time. We're almost done too, right? I have a couple more slides. How many more? A couple more, right? Yeah. Yeah, I can't go into that. Yeah. Okay, so anabolism, we're forming larger and larger molecules. It's called dehydration reaction. Remember, water is released. So we form larger and larger molecules like this when we're talking about one glucose, and if we end up stringing them up into multiple glucose, it forms this glycogen. And glycogen is, once again, our way of storing glucose, yeah? No. Catabolism is actually the antithesis of anabolism. So we're actually breaking down larger molecules into smaller molecules. And what reaction process does this occur? This is where we have water put. Yes, hydrolysis. Water put into it to break down molecules into smaller and smaller molecules. Okay, through your nutrition and metabolism lab that you do at home, we're talking about metabolic rate. So this is the rate of energy consumption or gain by our body. Sorry, it's more consumption based. But our basal metabolic rate, or BMR, is the amount of energy that helps us maintain our basic functions in life. So for females, it tends to be a little less compared to males. You don't have to remember the numbers, just know a general trend that females tend to have less BMRs than males. And this is how you end up calculating BMR. First, there's this conversion factor. So 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters, while 1 kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. So if you're a male, you have a BMR that equals to this equation here. So you can see how there's weight involved, also your height that is involved, and also your age involved too, right, in this equation. So looking at this, like the taller you are, is your BMR going to be higher or decrease or the same? Higher. How about the more weight you are? If you're more weight, it's also higher as well. How about your age, though? If you increase in age, what's going to happen with your BMR? Decreases, right? Because there's a minus here, yeah. And as us older folks know, our basal metabolic rate is a lot slower than my youthful self. For females, same thing. And that's partially why we're talking about how males tend to have higher BMRs than females, is because they tend to be larger, right? Taller and has more weight as well. It makes sense too, because like if you're carrying on more weight, you have to utilize more energy to do the same things as someone who has less weight. Okay, so given this example, if you're a 35-year-old male and weighing 150 pounds and around 5'7", what is your BMR? I want you guys to try to calculate that so I know that you guys actually know how to do this. Is that good? Oh, I actually calculate the exact BMR. So using this equation here. So I'll give you a few minutes to do it while I pause the video here. Off a little bit. So everyone had this conversion of kilograms. How about centimeters? Yeah? Did you guys get that centimeters for your height? And you first convert, right? This 5 feet, there's 12 inches in 5 feet, right? So that's 60 inches, right? And then you add 7 inches after that, so that's where 67 comes in. And then the conversion is that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. So at the end, pretty good. I would say that would be accurate. Like if I was going to give you a multiple choice, potentially if I give you a multiple choice, I would probably say something like 500, 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000. So which one would be correct? It would be 1,500, right? It's nearer to 1,500 than 2,000. So even if you did do some rounding, it would be around that ballpark. So that's how much this person will end up burning per day for basal metabolism. And I was just talking about how, depending on your gender, right, it is dependent on that. Also, your age as well is dependent on that as well. Okay. Sorry, you were looking at it, so? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, no problem. Alright. No problem. Alright. No problem. Okay, essential nutrients. Okay, essential nutrients, these are the nutrients that we have to have by consuming. We cannot make this on our own. Our bodies cannot make it. Our bodies can make certain types of amino acids, but it can't make up all the amino acids. It can make up certain types of lipids, but it can't make up all the lipids. So some of this we actually have to consume. The essential amino acids, there's 8 of them out of the 20 that are naturally occurring. So these come through our diet. We actually have to consume it. As you can see, infants actually have 9 essential amino acids. So we end up developing a capability to make up histidines as we grow older. So once again, our body can make any of the 12 amino acids converted from our own protein source or from what we eat, but we cannot make 8 of these types of amino acids, so we actually have to eat. And so things that have these 8 types of amino acids are meats. They usually tend to have these essential amino acids. And if you're not a meat eater, you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you'll utilize legumes and grains to help gain these or supplement these essential amino acids. Essential fatty acids, same thing, it's just we're talking about fatty acids. So these are fatty acids that our bodies can't make up. It's called linoleic acid and also linoleic acid, but you don't have to know that. Just know that what essential fatty acids are. And once again, you could tell this is a fatty acid because there's this huge hydrocarbon chain, right? Vitamins are also essential nutrients as well. Vitamins are organic compounds that we actually need for metabolism. While minerals, on the other hand, are the same thing as vitamins. It's just that they're inorganic molecules that we need for our bodies to work. Usually these are coenzymes that help our enzymes to work and function correctly. Okay? There are different eating disorders I want to at least inform you guys. One is anorexia nervosa. This is the self-starvation due to some sort of fear of gaining weight. Can you guys even recognize this actor here? Although it's Christian Bale, yes, but he purposely starved himself for this role. Yeah, that's Christian Bale right there. That's Batman.
And then he has to gain all that weight to do the Batman movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes him a great actor.
Yeah, he won something.
I don't know. Bulimia is when you binge eat. So there are periods of times that you eat a lot, but then at the same time you end up purging. There are different types of purging. One is through vomiting. And if you end up vomiting, remember all that acid, hydrochloric acid within your stomach? That's going to burn your esophagus and keep on traveling into your oral cavity where it potentially can erode your teeth as shown over here due to the hydrochloric acid from your stomach. Yeah, your gag reflex will potentially start to become more resistant from proper reflexes of gagging.
Is that what happened with their teeth? Is that why their teeth are...
Yeah, they're eroded on the bottom. It's because of the hydrochloric acid eroding the enamel of the teeth. So it becomes very sensitive. Obesity is yet another problem within our society. This is when people tend to have really high body mass index. So a third of the Americans are obese, while another third of them are overweight. So obese is when you're grossly overweight. So this is, we have normal, and then we have overweight, and then we have obese. The thing about obesity is that we have an increased risk of cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and other diseases as well. There are many different types of ways to calculate our BMI. One is through our weight and also through our height. So if you do this BMI, you do it by looking at the weight divided by the height squared. Okay, so 1 kilogram, once again, is 2.2 pounds, and 1 meter is about 3.28 feet, or if you're talking about inches, an inch is 2.54 centimeters. So if someone is 150 pounds and same height, 5'7", what is their BMI then? And I want you guys to calculate this out, just to see if you know how to do it. Going on words. So we have someone who weighs 68.2 kilograms. Everyone had that? Yeah. Okay. And height, we have 170.2 centimeters, which is about 1.7 meters. Yeah. Well, I guess it's... Yeah, I think you have to convert to meters. Okay, so you end up having a BMI of 23.6. So, I didn't put it, but if you did look at the chart of it, I don't know if you look at the chart, and